Hello, everyone. This is Eric from Helps on YouTube Live today, December 22nd. Glad to have you here. My name's Eric, excuse me, attorney for 46 years now, founder of Helps. Helps is a national law firm that what we do is represent seniors and disabled persons who owe debt they can't afford to pay in order to stop collector harassment. We also educate seniors how they can maintain their financial independence. And if you're first time on our channel, I want you to give a special welcome. Please listen to what we talk about. You're going to hear things you probably won't hear other places. And if you have any questions, you can put them in the chat feature. I'll try to address them there and should be able to address them. So if you have any questions, contact us on the chat feature. Meanwhile, I'll talk about things that people have written in about or messages on some of our other YouTube videos, okay? And let me know that you can hear me clearly. It's always nice to know that, although I think you can, okay? Person contacts us from Texas. He says, I'm 72 years old. I'm on Social Security as my only income. I owe credit cards that I can't pay. Yesterday, I received a lawsuit from one of the companies. I need help. So, this is kind of typical when people call us they get on our website or someone tells them about us or they listen to a YouTube video and they owe debt. And sometimes they're being sued like this guy. And they contact us and they don't know what to do, okay? So let's talk about this guy in particular. He's 72 years old and he says his Social Security is his only income. So my most important message to seniors is that your Social Security is protected, okay? It can't be taken from you. Since Social Security was founded in 1935, it can't be garnished, okay? It's available for your needs. And then in 2012, there was a law put in effect that tells banks that if they get a writ of garnishment, they have to examine where you get your money from that goes into your bank account. And if you get Social Security, they protect twice the amount of Social Security you get each month, regardless if there's other funds deposited in the bank account, okay? So if Social Security is deposited in your bank account, they protect that from garnishment, okay? So if this guy, he owes the debt, he says, yesterday I received a lawsuit from one of the companies. You know, the lawsuit might say that he's supposed to go to court at a certain date and time, but if you read it carefully, that is if you're going to contest or fight the lawsuit. If you're not going to fight the lawsuit, you do not need to go to court at that date and time, okay? You don't need to do it. They'll just eventually get a judgment. And but he lives in Texas, you know, he's not going to have an issue. So what happens when people enroll in Helps, they give us the creditors they owe money to or the collectors. All we need is the name, address, and account number, and we send a letter to the people you owe money to. It's called a cease and desist letter. See, in 1978, a law was passed called the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. That law provides if you're represented by an attorney, debt collectors can no longer call or send demand letters anymore. They have to communicate with the attorney. And so that's what Helps does, is we represent seniors who owe debt in order to stop collectors from harassing them. You just give us the name, address, and account number. We don't need the balance, and we send a cease and desist letter out, okay? And if they're being sued, we send a letter to the attorney that sued you, let him know that your income is protected. They're going to leave you alone, okay? That's what Helps does. You don't have to pay the debt. Your income is protected. This guy on Social Security, you're going to tell him you don't need to worry about that credit card debt that you owe and that lawsuit. You're not going to have to go to court. You're going to be fine, okay? Okay, so, and I'll address your questions if you put them in the chat feature. Okay, so this person contacts us from Arizona. I think I talked to him this morning, in fact. His wife was an accountant, and she is on hospice now. And he never had anything to do with the bills, so he's having to get a fast education on what to do about the bills, okay? And he has about 10,000 in debt, and then he had a solar loan that he's worried about that's being harassed, and the solar company went bankrupt. Okay, and he's got a reverse mortgage on his home, and he lives in Arizona. So the one thing I told him, I said, well, if your wife is on hospice and she passes away, then part of your Social Security is going to go away. When you're married and you both get Social Security and one of the spouses passes, the survivor gets the higher of the two Social Securities. So he would get her Social Security, but his would go away. And then she got a pension, and when she passes away, the way they provided for her pension is he would get half of her pension. So his income was going to go down by $700 or $800 a month. I told him, I said, well, you can keep paying the $10,000 if you want to in credit card debt, but you don't need to do that. Once your wife passes away, it's going to be pretty tight. And he may continue to pay that, or he can turn that into us and he won't have to pay it. It's up to him. Now, as far as the solar loan is concerned, not a whole lot they can do. He's got a reverse mortgage and he doesn't have a whole lot of equity in the home for whatever reason. They're not going to come after his home. A solar loan almost always, it's just a UCC lien. And this particular solar company went bankrupt and he doesn't have any support from them. They're being sued. And so even if he got sued on that debt and they got a judgment, they can't take his home, they can't take his other assets, and his income is going to be protected. Remember, twice the amount of your Social Security in your bank account is protected automatically from garnishment, regardless of whether their monies are in there or where they came from. So he was going to go, we sent him some emails about what Helps does, and he was going to go over what we do, and he'll call us back if he decides he needs our help, which he probably will at some point. Remember, Helps is not debt management or debt settlement. Okay, when you enroll in Helps, you're not going to pay your debt. Now, when we talk to people, sometimes we'll ask them, do you have a credit card with a small balance or nothing is owed that you want to keep? If the answer is yes, if you've got a small credit card and it's not backed by a bank with whom you have another debt you're not going to pay, then you can keep that credit card by keep making that payment. You don't need to list a debt that you can afford that you want to keep paying. That way you can keep credit. Okay? So Connie says, I received a letter from Circuit Court about a hearing scheduling activity. It was rescheduled, so I can ignore it, right? Probably. You may want to call us and get us a copy of it so we can look at it. But yeah, if someone has sued you and you owe the debt and you're not going to contest the lawsuit, sometimes there's a process in place before they get a judgment. And yeah, if that's the case, yeah, you can ignore that hearing. Eventually, they're just going to get a judgment, but they can't collect from you, as I explained. So here's a comment on YouTube. I'm on Social Security disability and I live in Georgia. I have a loan company tell me they will sue me. What should I do? I own a home, but it's not paid for. Will they put a lien on my house? Possibly. The exemption in Georgia is like $43,000 for a couple, $21,000 for a single person in equity. But it's simply not the practice of consumer judgment creditors in almost every state to ever come after a person's home. They simply don't do it. So even if they get a judgment against you in a lien, if your income is Social Security, it's protected. You get Social Security, this guy gets Social Security disability, he's going to be okay. Now, if you own the home with his spouse and the loan is just in his name and then he passes away, the home will go to his spouse, that debt would go away. So there's been a lot of reasons why he's not going to need to worry about that debt. Yeah, if I haven't said it, Merry Christmas, everyone. It's coming up, isn't it? I can have twice my Social Security amount, $2,400 in my account, no matter where it comes from. Yeah, that's right. That's right. And if you know that, you know more than any bank manager I've ever met. And I'll bet 999 out of 1,000 attorneys don't know that rule, even though it's been in effect since 2012, because they don't practice in that area. Bank managers don't have anything to do with it. There's a department of the bank that is. Department, if someone got sued and there was a garnishment, the department of the bank would know how to deal with it. Okay? Yeah, no matter where it comes from. So this guy asked, if there are federal laws, there was a comment on one of our YouTube videos, why would they continue to garnish? They talked about federal laws protecting Social Security. Why would they continue to garnish? Aren't banking institutions insured by the federal government? Well, they're insured to be able to pay you in case they get in trouble. They're not insured to pay them if you don't pay your debt. Okay? So the insurance goes the opposite way from this what this person thought on this comment. He says, why would they continue? If they try to garnish, they're not going to get anything. And he's thinking, well, gee, if they don't get anything, they're going to get paid by the federal government for that. No, they're not. They're not going to get paid by the federal. The person who's protected by the insurance that you're thinking of, this person's thinking of, FDIC insurance, the Federal Deposit something or other, FDIC insurance, that is insurance that the federal government insures the banks, the deposit you make in the bank up to, like, I think it's $250,000 or something like that. Now, sometimes people make a comment that, well, gee, the FDIC is really underfunded. And it probably is. But if there was ever a problem, Congress would just vote money to protect money in your deposit. So you don't, for that reason, you're not going to have to worry about if your bank goes under, as long as it's FDIC insured, which almost all of them are, that you're going to lose money from your bank account if the bank had a problem. Okay? So this guy calls us. In fact, I think I talked to him last week. Eric, I'm very upset. I'm just now being told that creditors in Oregon can still contact me. So I called this guy back. He called a couple of our paralegals and then he called me. I think it was on Friday, and I talked to him. I explained to him, I said, well, okay, the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act technically applies to debt collectors, not original creditors. Now, in 6 states, it applies to original creditors, but most states it doesn't. It just debt collectors. So what that means is, if you're an original creditor, when we send a cease and desist letter out, we're going to send it to your debt collectors and the original creditor and the credit card company. And it's our experience, the credit card company, they're not going to call you on the phone. They may still send you a bill. And that's what was happening in his case. He was still getting a bill, and he was upset about that. But I reminded him, said, when you enrolled, we explained this to you. And also it's in our letter when you enrolled, saying that you could still get a bill. If you didn't want to get the bill, you could do a change of address to have the bill go to your name, care of helps at our address, so you need to get the bill. But I told him he didn't need to worry. And also, he had a bunch of creditors. He had a whole lot of them. Anyway. Okay. Will you have the reverse mortgage person on again soon? I can. He'd love to be on. If you have any questions on reverse mortgages, you can call and talk to us. I don't sell reverse mortgages, but I tell a lot of people about them when it can make sense. Or if you have a question, I can address it now. This person contacts us and he says, this is on a comment on one of our videos, I think. I'm on Social Security alone, but with a job prospect. I'm 60 days past due on my credit cards. How should I approach my creditors to keep my wages from being garnished? Well, you haven't got the job yet, for one reason, and then it depends on and depends on a whole lot of other things. They'd have to sue you, okay? And just because you don't pay your debt doesn't mean automatically you're going to get sued. I don't give a percentage of how many times you get sued, but it would likely be definitely a minority. You know, and then if they sued you, they're going to have to get a judgment. Usually that takes 60, 90, 120 days or longer. And then to worry about garnishment, it depends on how much money you make. First off, every state protects a minimum of $217.50 net per week in wages. That's a federal law. It's $435 every 2 weeks, about $950 a month. And then some states, for example, Texas, doesn't even allow your wages to be garnished. And then some states protect more than $217.50. That $217.50 law was put in effect back in 1996. Of course, things have changed since 1996, and you might ask, well, why hasn't the federal law increased the amount of wages that are protected? I think what lawmakers did, and I've explained this before, they just said, we're going to turn it over to the states. If the states want to protect more in wages, we're going to let them do it. We don't have a problem with our clients getting garnished. But if there ever was a problem, contact us. We tell you what your options are. What percentage can you take out on a reverse mortgage? Well, okay. Depends on how much you owe on the home. Depends on what the current interest rate is. Depends on your age. Those are all factors, okay? When interest was low here several years ago, reverse mortgages were a lot better deal than they are today, okay? A little bit more difficult today because the interest rates are higher. You have to be at least 62 to get a reverse mortgage. And the percentage, I used to say 50% is a guideline, but remember there has to be money to pay off the existing mortgage, and then whatever's left over would be available to you as a line of credit, or you could pull out. Okay? So it kind of depends on the facts. And we have videos that we talk about that on YouTube, and we have a guy from Michigan that we refer a lot of cases to, Ken Krajewski. He's been really good to our clients. We have no financial arrangement with Ken. He's just been really good to our clients. And you get on our website, or you can contact us. We can send you an email with his contact information. Okay. This guy calls us. Here's another email. Comment on one of our videos. It could have been a video that we did with senior living. And he says, not true. Discover has a judgment on me for $3,940. And I got a letter from the sheriff's department. They are, all capitals, are coming after my personal and real property. All I own is a 15-year-old car, paid for, and my household property. I have 90 days to pay, or they will, capital W-I-L-L, take my property. I'm 78 years old, disabled, no family, and Social Security is my only income. All caps, only income. My only income. Well, I think we made a comment to him to contact us, I think I asked him, I said, do you live in South Carolina? I'm kind of guessing that's where he's from. Some states, they use a state law to send a letter to the debt collector that has the judgment, the attorney, and can intimidate people. And sometimes a sheriff's office can be part of that. And South Carolina is one of those states. but it's going to be covered under his exemption. The problem is the letter he gets doesn't say that. So we're going to have to explain that to him and why he doesn't need to worry. Okay? They're not going to take his car. They're not going to take his personal property, and they're not going to take his home. Okay? Okay. Person contacts us from New York. They get about $1,400 in Social Security. Hi. I'm glad that I came across your site. I'm just as happy that you do what you do. I'm 61. I'm on Social Security disability. Born and raised in New York and moved to Pennsylvania about 10 years ago because I couldn't afford to live in New York on Social Security disability. I've since moved back by myself about 3 years ago. Now I'm finding it impossible to feed myself and pay my bills. I receive SNAP benefits, food stamps, okay, to help with food and a food bank at the church. I have about $8,000 in credit cards, including a PayPal credit line of $1,800. Excuse me. Up until now, I've been making minimum payments on my accounts. I have looked into debt consolidation loan, but I realize that puts me in a worse situation. I've watched YouTube and read enough that I realize I would like to become a HELPS member. That's right. His income is $1,400, and he's got a lot of debt. He doesn't have to pay the debt. No one can take anything from him. When he enrolls in HELPS, we're going to send a letter to the creditors he owes, and they're going to leave him alone. It's going to be fine. Okay? So, as we're doing this, press the like button. You can always put comments on the comment section, and you can always ask questions. You can always call us toll free. The number is below. Okay? And let's see if there's questions here I need to deal with. I don't know. Rico says, I have a bunch of credit cards. A few already are suing. Assuming I deal with the current ones with helps and credit rises, won't the subsequent hits coming negate credit progress back to square one? No. Let me explain. Okay. Helps doesn't work on helping you restore your credit, but we do have an arrangement with a company called Phil Tyrone 720 credit score. Okay. Your credit is based on your recent credit history. Okay. After you've been part of Helps for 90 days, then you contact Helps. We'll send an email and you can enroll in this program. And it's possible to get your credit back within a year and a half to 2 years, up to a 700 credit score. No matter how low how much debt you have or what your income is, you can rebuild your credit. For those that are interested in doing that, a lot of Helps clients are not interested in rebuilding your credit, but some of them are. Okay. Your credit is based primarily on your recent credit history. So once a debt is written off as uncollectible, when they say it's uncollectible, that doesn't mean they still can't try to collect. It stops impacting your credit, and then if you rebuild credit from that point on, you can rebuild your credit. Okay? So you can get on our YouTube page, and we have a video with Phil Tyrone that talks about that program. Okay? You can look at that, and then if you've been part of Helps for more than 90 days, call us. We can send you an email, and you can enroll in that program. It's free. It doesn't cost you anything. Okay? Okay. The other thing, too, on your credit, just so you know, If you get sued, that doesn't get reported on your credit report. So you get sued 6 months, a year, 2 years down the road, doesn't appear on your credit report. They stopped that about 2018. Okay? So you can still owe a bunch of debt and still have perfect and have really good credit. Okay? You could have a lot of judgments and still have good credit. It's based on your recent credit history. So when your credit goes back and you don't have to pay the debt off to reestablish your credit. It's almost counterintuitive, isn't it? That's what I thought, but that's the way it works. I heard recently that you can build your credit score by including your rent payment. I'm not the expert on that. I'm not sure if that's possible. Um, that's part of the 720 credit score with helps is that Phil Tyrone has a call-in program at least once or twice a month where you can call in and ask questions, and you could do that. Then ask him; he'll tell you that. So this guy asks, he says, "Can you combine your monthly income from Social Security and a VA? Example: Social Security is $2,500 and my VA is $2,000 for a total of $4,500 monthly. I can double up and thus have total protection of $9,000 from a judgment against my bank account. Thank you for your information." You're right. That's how it works. It's your federal benefit. So if you got 2,500 plus 2,000 in VA, both are federal benefits. That's $4,500 times 2 is 9,000. 9,000 in your bank account is protected from garnishment, regardless of what funds are in there or where they come from. So Gail asks, does the letter you send to creditors make them aware that my only income is Social Security? Yeah. If you get other income, that's not mentioned. We just say your income is Social Security. Will the letter keep creditors from taking me to court? No. You could still get sued, but you don't need to worry about it if your income is Social Security and a pension, disability, VA benefits is protected, and your other assets are protected, as we discuss here, it helps. And you shouldn't have to go to court. We always tell if you get sued, get a hold of us. We're going to talk to you about what you need to do, if anything, but going to court normally would not be one of the things that you would need to do. Okay? So this person writes in and they say, I had to file for Social Security disability and it was approved the first time. I applied even though I didn't want to stop working. I had no choice. My problem is that it's a huge problem is that because it took a year for my Social Security to get approved, and then another 3 months before I received my first Social Security disability check, my credit is ruined because all I could afford was the necessities, such as rent, food, utilities. The debt on my credit that has my credit score is so poor in credit card debt that I just couldn't pay with no income coming in while waiting for my disability. So, his credit cards went bad and his credit took a hit. I had some savings and thankfully I was able to keep shelter and food, but that was it. Is there anything that can be done about my credit since I can't work or earn income and only have Social Security disability? Surely there's something that can remove this credit card debt since it's all within the dates I filed to when I got my first check. Please. Yeah, that's what I just talked about. If you want to get your credit back and you're a member of HELPS, after 90 days, contact us. We'll send you an email on how to roll in 7 steps to a 720 credit score. You can get your credit back. Kathy asks, Eric, I had a fingerhut account for over 20 years and they're in bankruptcy. Web bank quit, and although I was up to date with my payments, I only owe them minimum, but that one in my credit report sounds like a negative. Because they took away my 5,000 limit. Yeah, I'm not the one to ask on how to restore credit. Like if you're a member of Helps, enroll in that 720 credit score program, and they'll help you with that. If you want, uh, not all of our clients want to get their credit back. In fact, a minority do. When you enroll in Helps, if you have a credit card that you're current on that you want to keep, you can keep that credit card as long as it's not backed by a bank with whom you have another credit card. So it says, but it seems that if your credit card rises and a new charge off pops up on a good card that was helping prop up the 90-day, yeah, sometimes they may report something that they're not allowed to do, and you can contest that. I know that much about on restoring credit. Okay. But if you're anxious to restore the credit, contact us and we'll get you enrolled in that 720 credit score. Okay? Sorry for being repetitious. Don't need to be sorry. I didn't even notice. If you've been listening to me a while, you'll realize that there's a lot of repetition that goes on with Helps, which is fine because a lot of people don't know this information. A lot of stuff we talk about here, you're not going to hear other places. Okay, this guy writes in, he says, I live in Florida. I was sued by a credit card collector. I own my home. I'm homestead and own my home. It's automatic in Florida. He's got a homestead exemption. I live, unfortunately, in an HOA community. So I have to keep up with the dues. Household owner association. So he's got to pay kind of a monthly or annual due. Okay, I had to take out a HELOC, home equity line of credit. That's like a second mortgage in order to pay for a new roof, which everyone had to pay out of pocket. I live solely on Social Security and recently lost my mom who lived with me for 17 years. So when mom passed away, some of his income went away. She and I both paid for our household expenses. Now that money's gone from mom. Now that she's no longer with me, I'm paying out double for all household expenses, plus the home equity line of credit. I'm in debt up to my eyeballs and can't keep up with the credit card debt. I do know that in the state of Florida, in the state constitution, it says credit card debt cannot attach a lien to my property. Credit card is an unsecured debt. Yet the judge ruled against me and a lien has been placed on my property with accruing interest. I'll talk about that here. It goes on. I have no savings or any other form of income other than my Social Security check. I can't afford attorney fees. I drive an old 2008 Ford. I have zero assets. I need to know if down the road, if I do sell, can I file to have the lien removed in Florida? And the answer is yes. We have a detailed email on how to do that. You can do it yourself. You don't have to have an attorney do that. It gives you file that. A notice is sent to the creditor. If they don't object, which they won't, because there's no basis for them to object unless you weren't living in the home, then the court will remove the lien and allow you to sell the home within six months. Now, if you don't get it sold within 6 months, you can refile the paperwork and get an additional 6 months. Okay? So yeah, in Florida, you can have a lien removed. You're not going to worry about it if they get a judgment. Okay? They can't take your home and you can have the lien removed, which is good. So this guy on a comment said, what about pensions? Yeah, they're protected. Pensions are protected under a federal law passed in 1974 called ERISA, Employment, Retirement, Income Security Act. Most pensions are protected under ERISA, but if you have a pension isn't protected under ERISA, there'll be a state law that protects the pension. I've never seen anyone in 46 years of practice lose their pension. Okay? Okay. So this person contacts us from Ohio. I'm on 100%. I'm a 100% disabled veteran. Uh, I'm no longer physically able to work. I have no job, and my wife is not able to work most jobs as she needs to be able to care for me. Our income has decreased by 2/3. We are drowning in debt, and we are no longer able to buy groceries. Well, yeah, helps can't I can't put more money in your pocket, new money, but what helps can do is tell you how you don't have to pay the debt, so you've got that money to help support yourself. And other things we do is, we give seniors information about things. Now, if you're a disabled veteran, there may be a benefit that you're entitled to that you don't know about. We would tell you about that. But you can stop paying the credit card debt. They can't touch your VA disability, and it may give you, if you've been using some of your VA disability to pay debt, then you're going to have that to be able to buy groceries and basic needs. And what helps is going to protect you so that if the creditors were to call you, they're going to have to stop bothering you. We represent you ongoing. We don't turn anyone away that needs our help. Okay? The cost is minimal, and for some of our clients, they get our help for free. Okay. Person contacts us from Indiana. I have 2 credit cards and 2 personal loans and 1 car repossession that's going on right now. I don't know if they picked his car up yet or not, but it's going to happen. I signed up with a debt consolidation company, but they haven't done anything yet. If you're signed up with a debt consolidation or debt settlement company, the question I have for you, when you enrolled with them, did they tell you that your Social Security and your pension was protected and you didn't need to pay the debt? If they didn't tell you that, which I'm pretty sure they didn't, there's few exceptions, you weren't given complete information. Okay? And you can quit paying them. He goes on to say, they're waiting for my first payment. Can I get out of debt consolidation? Absolutely, you can stop it. If you're wrapped up with debt consolidation, you don't need to pay them anymore. You can call them on the phone, ask them to send any money back to you that they're still holding. It says they're asking for $265 for 38 months. I'd recently stopped working part-time at Lowe's. I'm 72. With my Lowe's paycheck, I was falling behind. Please call me. I will go with your company if I can get away from the consolidation company. Absolutely, you can get away from the consolidation company. Sometimes I tell people, I get lots of emails that talk about debt consolidation. If you've been listening to me, you've heard me talk about these guys before. They don't give seniors the complete truth. If they would have told you that your income was protected and you need to pay the debt, you would realize you didn't need to sign up with them. So another person from Indiana contacts us and he says, I have cancer and I'm on disability. Due to loss of income, my husband and I are now living on limited Social Security. As a result, we have debt collectors contacting us daily. I have informed the credit card companies of my medical and financial situation, and I'm sending a small monthly payment. Don't need to do that, but that's what she's telling me she's doing, or he's doing. Although it is below the required minimum, however, they are pressuring me to come to a long-term hardship plan under their terms. At this point, I'm unsure how to proceed with our financial situation, and am seeking professional guidance or available options. They're living on Social Security as their only income. They don't need to pay the debt anymore. That's your option. I mean, you could theoretically file bankruptcy, but you couldn't afford to. Bankruptcy is going to cost probably $2,000 to $3,000 with the filing fees and all. And you don't need to file bankruptcy because no one can touch your Social Security. You don't need to pay the debt. And when you enroll in helps, we're going to send letters to your creditors, so they got to leave you alone. And then the magical thing about helps is that we're your attorney ongoing, so that if you ever have a question or concern, you can always call us. So if you get a new collection notice from, if a credit card company or a debt collector sold it to a new collection agency, you got a new collection notice a year and a half down the road, get it to helps. 2 years, 3 years, 4 years down the road, get it to helps. We'll send a cease and desist letter out to that new debt collector, so they leave you alone. And if you ever have a question or worried or scared, you pick up the phone and you call, no matter how often. Okay. So this person writes in and they say, I'm desperate, 83 years old, and I still need to work 30 to 40 hours a week, trying to get another job for 2 years. And he talks about something else. Well, I mean, there's nothing wrong with working. When I'm 83, which will be a long time from now, I'd probably still be working. But I don't, if I'm able to, I should hopefully I can. There's nothing wrong with working, but you don't have to work. And if you're working just to pay the debt, you don't have to do that. You can stop working, okay? Let alone getting 2 jobs, like this guy's talking about doing. And he says, I'm desperate. If you're desperate, needing to work to pay old debt, you can stop paying the old debt. So this person contacts us. He says, I'm on disability. I stopped being able to pay my credit card bills 12 to 18 months ago. I was just served with papers from one of the credit card companies. Most have charge off on my credit report. It shows I owe somewhere between $5,000 to $45,000. The $5,000 is current debt, though through my credit union, it's the only one I'm paying on, and at a minimum, it's not going anywhere. Well, this guy's on disability, which is protected, can't be taken from him. He's been sued. You're not going to have to go to court. If you don't want to be hounded by the creditors, you can enroll in helps. Give us the name, address, and the account number. We're going to send a cease and desist letter. They're going to leave you alone. If you have a question, you call. So when people contact us, sometimes they call us 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times before they enroll in helps. We take the information down, save it, and you can always call back. The whole purpose of helps is so you don't have to worry about this debt anymore. So this person contacts us from Pennsylvania. His issue, I have hospital bills that were put into a collection agency and they keep sending me bill notices. I'm not able to pay them because I'm on Social Security and can hardly buy groceries or medications. What would you suggest I can do? Also, he says, I moved out of an apartment in 2023 and broke my lease because of an unstable neighbor that lived above me. He talked about what happened. He says, the landlord took me to court and won, and I've been paying him $25 until this is paid off. And I'm getting to the point that I can't pay him anymore. This was court ordered. What should I do? Stop paying or continue to pay this? Thank you, and waiting to hear from your office. You can stop paying him. The court can't order you to pay $25 from Social Security. He says, I'm on Social Security. The court can't order you to pay that. I think he may have been confused. Maybe a judge, someone was trying to be helpful and say, hey, if you pay $25, is that going to solve it? But no, you don't need to pay it. Remember, twice the amount of Social Security you get is deposited in your bank account. If someone has a judgment, then theoretically with a judgment, they could file a writ of garnishment on your bank account if they happen to know where you bank. But if you kept the balance in your bank account less than twice the amount of Social Security you get each month, say you got $1,500 in Social Security, keep it less than $3,000, then the bank's going to protect that automatically without you having to do anything. So you can stop paying the $25. And you don't need to worry about the hospital bill. And you don't need to worry about the debt you owe the old landlord. And for that matter, if you have other debt, you can stop paying it too. Lawmakers protected Social Security and pensions because they want seniors to have enough money to pay for their food and their medicine and their housing and their heat and their needs, like people like I've been talking about here. And you don't need to feel guilty if you can't pay it. I've been an attorney now for a long time, 46 years. I know seniors, and if they had the money, they would pay it, but they're simply not able to do it. So don't feel guilty if you can't pay the debt. There's nothing wrong with having a little bit of money to buy a grandkid a gift or something like that. You got to have balance in life. So don't worry about it. If you can't afford to pay the debt, don't pay it. And if you don't want to be surrounded by creditors, you can call help so we can represent you so they're going to leave you alone. We don't want you to worry. Okay, the person contacts us from Kansas. He says, I'm recently widowed and have creditors calling and writing me regarding my husband's debts. Any assistance in understanding what my options are would be greatly appreciated. Well, when your spouse passed away, I'm assuming there was no estate, like there is almost always in these cases. Any assets you own together, like the home passed to you, or the car is now yours, or the personal possessions are now your possessions. He didn't have an estate for there to be a probate. So you're not responsible for his debt. Okay, you do not have to pay it. And if you get a bill, all you need to send the bill back. I used to tell people to send a copy of the death certificate with it. You could do that if you want. Don't necessarily have to. Just write deceased and no estate and send that back to them. Yeah, you're not responsible for your husband's debt after he passed away. Now, even if you were on the debt with him, okay, and you're responsible for it, so to speak, you'll need to pay it. If your income is Social Security or pension, if your retirement income, no, you don't have to pay it. You're going to be fine. Okay? This person contacts us from Texas. I'm a disabled female. And I'm in hospice. My Social Security benefit is going to be $938 a month. My husband will be 87 this coming March. And he gets like $2,300 in Social Security. We are in debt with over $25,000, and this sum is under several collection agencies. What or how should we handle this problem? So, any helpful advice? Yeah, helps. That's what we do. We helps people, but help stands for help eliminate legal problems for seniors. So what we're going to tell this person is that, okay, she's worried because she's on hospice. Okay. When she passes away, husband will get the higher of the two Social Securities, which is his Social Security, and her Social Security will go away. Okay. But they can stop paying the credit card debt now, or they could have stopped in the past because their only income was Social Security. And if they're able to afford it now with her income in the next several months when she passes away, or a year, or whenever it's going to happen, there's no reason for her to continue paying that credit card debt. You could stop now. And if there's a little extra money, you can save that up. There'll be some expenses when you pass on. And if you don't want to be surrounded by the creditors, we can enroll you in HELPS, so they're going to leave you alone. Nice thing about HELPS, when you enroll in HELPS, you are our client ongoing, literally forever. So if you ever have a question or concern, you can always call and contact us and talk to us. We don't want you to worry. Okay? Okay. Okay, just a second here. So H. Mendoza says, what about California? Can a lien be removed if you want to sell your home? And the answer is yes. The exemption for homestead in California is at least $700,000. It depends on the county where you live. With California, you file a homestead early, either when you buy the home or soon thereafter. And that means that a homestead, that if you go to sell the home, the lien doesn't attach. But yeah, you can get a lien removed in California really easy if there's a problem with one. So this person contacts us from Pennsylvania, and it says, I have about $4,000 in hospital bills. And now a debt collector is calling me and sending me notices that I need to send money to settle the debt. The other question I have is an apartment I rented in 23. I think I already talked about this guy. It looks like they sent us 2 inquiries. I'm pretty sure it's the same one. So here's another one. I need help fast. Okay. That's the nice thing about HELPS is we are fast. When people decide to enroll in HELPS, you enroll over the phone. So if you call us and you decide to enroll, we just ask some basic questions and we enroll you on the spot. And we click a button and you're going to get an email that says welcome to HELPS, and it has all our contact information, address, phone number, email address. It gives instructions how to get us the collectors. You're a client literally immediately, so that when you hang up the phone, if you got a telephone call the next minute and you told them you're represented by HELPS and gave them our number and they call us, you're in our system as being our client. Okay? And then you're going to get us the creditors you owe money to. We're going to send a cease and desist letter out to those creditors or collectors. So that's pretty fast. You don't have to come into an office. You don't have to fill out a form. We can enroll you over the phone virtually immediately. Now, that doesn't mean that we're going to enroll you immediately. You got to feel comfortable about what we're doing. So a lot of people call us 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6 times before they decide to enroll. But when you enroll, boom, computer's going to automatically send you an email. We're going to keep you on the line till you get that email that says welcome to HELPS. So this guy says, I need help fast. HELPS is fast. And then our goal is when you get us the creditors you owe money to, is to get a cease and desist letter out within 25 to 48 hours, 24 to 48 hours. We usually do it faster than that, but we try to get the letters out right away. Now, they may still be bugging you until they get that letter, and we tell people it might take 2 to 4 weeks, maybe 5 weeks. They have to get the letter, process it in their system before they stop calling. But in the meantime, if they were to call, and you don't have to talk to them on the phone, but if you did, you tell them your representative might help, give them our name and number, and then they're not going to bother you. Okay, he says, I'm glad I found you on YouTube. Please call or email me at your earliest convenience. My phone goes to voicemail if you're not on my contact list. So leave a message and I'll call you back ASAP. And we leave messages. Okay. So we called him back and left a message. We called him back on the 15th and we called him back again on the 17th. Left a message again and then he called back. And he says struggling with unsecured credit card debt and medical debt. And he used a debt relief program in September, October, and November. And he had a student loan. And never told that her income was protected by the debt relief program. No, if they told you that, you wouldn't enroll with them. She asked, how could she cancel with the debt relief program? Call them on the phone and cancel. Asked if she could contact her creditor, if she could collect their creditor information prior to contacting them. From the debt relief company? Well, they should send them to you or email them to you. But you could stop paying a debt management or debt relief company immediately. And we explained how her income was protected, or the car was protected. Has written a book that she may receive royalties from. How can I protect? Don't need to worry about that. There's not going to be a problem with any royalties. Is on the fence between bankruptcy and us. You can file bankruptcy if you want, but most of our seniors have absolutely no need to file bankruptcy, can't afford to. They don't want to go through the headache of a bankruptcy. But it looks like they enrolled in HELPS. They realized that. I did probably between 30 and 40,000 bankruptcies before HELPS was started. I started HELPS because so many seniors, they didn't need to file bankruptcy and they couldn't afford to file bankruptcy, but the creditors were calling them on the phone. And it looks like the hour has passed. So we're going to have YouTube Live tomorrow, but we're not going to have it on Christmas Eve. And then we'll start on the following Monday, or do it next week. We'll play it by ear. But in the meantime, if you have any questions, call us at the number down here, 855-435-7787. You can ask questions on our YouTube, and I try to look at those and answer there. But don't hesitate to call. And we always ask our clients to share what HELPS does with others. So if I don't talk to you again before your Christmas, have a Merry Christmas. But I will be here tomorrow. God bless and have a wonderful day.